win a VIP package that includes 2 nights lodging for 2 and 2 days of guided walleye fishing. That's KFAN.com, keyword contest to enter today.
Final hour, it's Nordo in for PA. He'll be back on Monday. Hopefully, maybe Wolves fans will be celebrating a sweep. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Champs are still the champs until no longer being the champs. Max Fuller producing. And at Twins Geek via Twitter, John Bonus is in studio. How you doing, man?
Hi, kids. How we doing?
Oh, fantastic. Riding this Game 3 vibe. And
I'm excited about tonight.
And you're riding this happy birthday vibe.
A little nervous. Yeah, I am. Happy birthday to me, 57 years old. I'm getting up there, man.
You look 56.
Well, thanks.
I just wanted to tell you that. You look not a day older than 56.
I'm only 2 days older than 56, as it turns out.
Hey, you think young, stay young, feel young, right? Absolutely. Will your downtown dawdling take you anywhere near? I know you're kind of
for sure.
a different part of downtown, but you're going to be near the mix tonight, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we've been dawdling all week to Target Field. We'll certainly be dawdling near Target Center. I don't think we're going to the game. I don't think we weren't around when tickets went on sale, so we missed out on that. But there's like 11 bars or something in and around Target Field that are going to be, or Target Center that are going to be showing the game, and we'll either hit one of those or one of our own favorite hangouts. Maybe we were at 8th Street Grill last night. That was a good one to watch the game, and they're included in that. We're probably maybe Dan Kelly's. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of great places around there.
Walk and talk and have beers and
yeah, right.
No, it's an app, isn't it? And you've living downtown and being you've been to Target Field many times. But how alive this thing is, and that city comes alive for Vikings tailgating and all of that. But it's always disjointed, of course, trying to work that into an urban environment. But just everything from social, everything from a reporting standpoint, we get up when the vibe is good, and it's the first time in years, I think, John, we can really taste and we can really dare to dream a little bit about one of our teams.
Sure. I mean, this feels like the 98-99 Vikings, something like that. It feels like that. This team just feels different, and I'm honestly, I think one of the things, I think maybe the reason I like sports is because I like the community that sports builds. So when you get an opportunity like this where, the entire city is suddenly paying attention to the same thing and we're kind of all rallying around it, like it would kill me to watch that game at home alone. Why would I want to miss out? You can go anywhere and talk to everybody and feel that sort of shared communal vibe. And I'm very excited about tonight. I'm very excited about Sunday night. I'm very excited to see where this goes. So,
well, I'm going to be at
whether I can be at the games or not. Like, dude, get out there and
absolutely
be part of it.
Get out, go somewhere. I'm going to be at Free House tonight doing a watch party, giving away some gift cards.
Free House.
No, it's going to be beers and hoops. No, it's awesome right there on Washington. So looking forward to that. The speaking of vibes with the baseball team.
Yes, sir.
Cool. You beat the White Sox and the Angels. That's cute.
Yeah.
But besting the Red Sox and the Mariners, and in the manner in which it's happening, that's becoming a real thing too, Johnny.
Yeah, well, I mean, the team was 7-13, and what was struggling was the hitting, right? They couldn't hit. And that was a big surprise because I expected the lineup to be the strength of this team. And then, they got better versus the White Sox and the Angels. It's one thing to be better going 7-3. It's another thing to go 10-0 versus those guys. But the question still was, but can the offense stay alive when it's not facing, some pretty crummy pitching staffs, which is what they had before? Well, yeah, apparently they can, because both the Red Sox and Mariners have really good team ERAs. Like, those are two good pitching teams, and this team just continues to keep hitting. Continues to consistently put up like 5-6 runs a game. And when you do that, you're going to put yourself into an opportunity to win a lot of games, especially when your pitching also seems to be holding up pretty well.
Yeah, it's. I think I saw something. You can tell me if I'm wrong. You got all the numbers in your head somewhere. The Mariners were like the second best ERA team either in Major League Baseball, definitely the American League, And now they're leaving, they're licking their wounds, headed back home or wherever they're headed next with like the 23rd or 24th best ERA. You were there in attendance celebrating your birthday. What a place to be.
Yeah.
And you watched them put, 10 or 11 on them yesterday. These bats are cooking, my man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking a look right now. Let's see. Team ERA for, 3.33 for the Seattle Mariners. Pretty good team ERA, right? 5th overall in the American League. Boston Red Sox, number 1 in the American League, 2.72.
Yeah.
And they just took 5 out of 7 from those two teams. So, yeah, this is, and by the way, getting to some really good pitchers really early, like jumping on them. You don't want to be late to a game at Target Field this year because they're putting up a 5 spot on Gilbert. They're putting up, they're hitting 3 home runs in the first 2 innings. Like, this is a team that can jump on even really good starting pitching and make it look silly. And then when you can turn over the rest of the game to Pablo Lopez or a resurging Chris Paddock, makes it for a very maybe a little boring. Actually, kind of a little boring baseball game. You just sit there and enjoy your beer and the sunshine. So.
Yeah, super, super boring. That sounds like as things have come together, given the start to the season.
That's right.
You were just in Japan. Do you think you could have gotten that rally sausage through customs? I don't know what this thing looks like. They're headed to Toronto this weekend. It helped them apparently through a 12-game win streak of sorts.
Well, and they supposedly said they were going to retire it after the 12-game win streak stopped, and then they decided in the middle of after the first loss, about the 5th inning, the next game they weren't hitting. They went and grabbed it again, brought it back out. So that sausage is still making its way around in the dugout and still being used as at
room temperature.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
It's
a shelf stable food.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I mean, if I. Can I bring toxic chemicals on a plane? I don't think I can. I don't think that's safe. I mean, you open that thing in a pressurized cabin. I don't know what. I don't know what.
we have a great story on Twins Daily today by Randball Stu, who writes a lot of our satire, talking about what it's like having these kind of good vibes around Minnesota sports and how weird it is, and described Rocco Baldelli as looking like the father of 26. High school teenagers, and he's just rubbing his temples as he thinks about what the hell they're doing to this poor sausage. So, yeah, it's that's
but that's
the baseball, baby. That's the beauty of it. It's got to be something stupid to be able to turn a team where 2/3 of the lineup was underneath the Mendoza line to now they are the best offense in the American League.
It's unbelievable.
Nuts. Right.
But you mentioned that and in twinsdaily.com to read whether it's satire or news reports and get it all. Twins Daily is the Wolves are doing what they're doing. Twins are doing what they're doing. We got Vikings rookie camp this weekend. Everyone wants, how's JJ doing? How's JJ as in JJ McCarthy? And when are they going to sign Justin Jefferson and all of that? I mean, the getting is so good right now.
Yeah.
And then there's the wild. Yeah. But all to say, maybe next year, okay, they got cap problems. Right, yeah. We can sell that away for another year and a half or so.
Right.
But it's just, it's unbelievable.
Minnesota United. You got to be excited about your Loons.
New coach, and they're handling business. It was that easy. And I feel I was one of the guys, I loved Adrian Heath with the Loons, but it wasn't working. So they had to make a change. Yep. Speaking of things that are good right now, as the beat goes on, Max Kepler. We were ready to send Max Kepler to whoever, do not, a one-way trip anywhere, it felt like was part of the conversation a year ago.
That's exactly right.
And 11-game hitting streak and all of that. Like what, all those players that weren't hitting well early and now doing their thing. I think Max almost above and beyond. I don't know if it's a massive surprise or not. Maybe it should be. But he's been as good as it gets over the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, last year he was terrible in the first half. He had a terrible first half of the year last year. And you're right. The Gleamer and the Geek podcast was pretty adamant in trying to get rid of Max Kepler, or make room on the roster and bring up some of the left-handed hitting talent they have in the minors, right?
So you guys, were you pitchforks at the door, guys?
Yeah, we were lobbying for change.
That he was available.
That's right. And what happened was he caught on fire. He was one of the best hitters in the American League in the second half of the year. Since he has come off the injured list, he had a terrible first week, but he was also had a terrible first week in part because on the first game he fouled a ball off his knee, right? So I think he was 1 for 20 his first week, right? Then he went on the IL, get the knee fixed up. Then he came back, and all he has done is he's hit 434.
Wow!
Since he came back off the IL, he put up a 1247 OPS. Like that's nuts, right? That's huge numbers, and he's doing it in the clutch.
Yeah,
he's doing it when there's runners on base. There'll be a runner on second base, and Max will trade places with him.
Well, he had those two. Maybe it was in the White Sox series. I'm trying to think. It was at some point in the win streak. He had either a double that scored the go-ahead run the ninth, and then the next night he had a sac fly.
Right, yeah.
Last night or yesterday he hits a home run. It's really just 8. That's the record at Target Field, the 80 home runs. Is that accurate that he tied Brian Dozier for the most home runs?
I think that's right, yes.
At Target Field?
I know he'd been moving up the list, and I knew he was one behind somebody.
Does that feel like a light number? It's been open since 2010. Does that feel like a light number?
It does feel a little light.
Or is it just, it's hard to remember going back to...
the truth is that, the Twins haven't had a ton of big home run hitters.
It's only recent years with the Bombas.
2019, they had the sort of a breakthrough, but other than that, I haven't seen a lot of 30 play. I think one of the stories in 2019 why it was so remarkable is it'd been so long since they'd had 30 home run, multiple 30 home run guys, right? I think he's got like 14 RBI, three home runs already, 14 RBI over that stretch. Like he's been really good. So, now he's hitting, cleanup or third or fourth, and the other guy who's worked his way up that lineup, up that batting order, and is absolutely dominating right now is Ryan Jeffers, who's just
how about that?
For a catcher to be posting, I think on the Gleeman of the Geek podcast today, which is now just published before I got here, free on GleemanoftheGeek.com. Aaron listed the 5 guys who have an OPS over 1,000 in Major League Baseball, and it was all the guys you would expect, like Ozuna and Soto, and all the huge Shohei Ohtani.
Oh yeah,
and it's fitting in there at number 5 was Ryan Jeffers, and he plays catcher half the time. And when he's not playing catcher, he's DHing, which you don't see a catcher DH very often,
not often,
unless it's Mike Piazza. So it's been a remarkable offensive surge, and it's been driven largely by those 2 guys.
Ryan Jeffers, the next Mike Piazza. That's not bad. I like that. You said it first. Twins Daily said it first. Ryan Jeffers, the next Mike Piazza. No, but he's been fantastic. You mentioned Shohei Ohtani, though. This pops in my head. The Mizahara, the gambling bit, have we all just kind of come to terms like this is actually one of those things where the interpreter guy, he is as much a degenerate as was reported, and that Shohei does actually appear to be as originally daft throughout this entire thing as he tried to play that he was?
When the news of this broke, I was pretty skeptical of Shohei Ohtani not being involved in any way whatsoever.
Me too.
But I also said, here's the thing. They already know, right? The reason the feds had been investigating this bookie for
like 6-7 months.
They had raided his place back in November. They had all his records. They had all his phone and stuff. They're going to know who was doing what, and they will have, and it was 4 or 5 months ago, they've done follow-up investigations on a lot of stuff. They already know what's going on, right? So we will see. We will find out fairly shortly. And what we found out fairly shortly is this guy's been taking money from Ohtani left and right. He's been taking money from Ohtani. He's been racking up enormous gambling debts with this guy, like $30 million worth of gambling debts or something.
Insane.
It's crazy. So, yeah, I think Shohei is probably off the hook. If Shohei would have been on the hook, I think we would have known that too.
Yeah,
right. I think it would have been clear. But yeah, he seems to be pretty free and clear, and this guy seems to have his interpreter seems to have a real problem. So
my positivity back to the Twins is not just Max Kepler being in love with what I've seen from him over the last couple of weeks. And the way you built it up, really, since the second half of last year, and then he's dinged up early, but now he's in the mix. But just trying to figure out how excited I should be about Simeon Woods Richardson, and just trying to weave my way through. No Sonny Gray, Kenta Maeda is with the Tigers now, I think, and I haven't followed to see how they're doing this season. But into this year, it's like how
has not been doing great.
He hasn't.
No.
The Tigers in general. Tigers
are all right.
What is the AL Central is just kind of a 4-horse race, right? It's his potentially historically bad White Sox and then everybody else.
I am surprised. I'm surprised how good Cleveland's been. I'm surprised how good the Royals have been. I'm a little surprised by the Tigers, but I expected them to be, about 500, maybe a little bit under 500 overall. But then, of course, the story really is that the White Sox are in just complete meltdown right now. So that does help the rest of the division, climb above 500 when you can just bank on, a 7-0 run against the White Sox would essentially save the Twins season. So
are the White Sox? I mean, can we put them in that 0-3 Tigers camp? Can we put them in maybe they lost at 119, I think. I mean, could this White Sox incarnation lose 120? Could you fathom that?
I mean, we have seen recently, and I think it's a result of sort of the financial structure of baseball, that you can have some really crummy teams. I mean, last year we had Oakland.
Yeah.
And then the start they got off to looked like they might be a historically bad team, an 0-3 Tigers kind of situation. White Sox, I mean, they have been playing. Truth is, they beat Cleveland last night. They have been playing better lately. They did immediately after being beat up by the Twins. They went and swept Tampa Bay Rays. So but that's baseball. Like baseball, a really good team wins 60% of its game. A really bad team loses 60% of its games. So they're not going to be that. They're not going to be. You're not going to go 0-162. But yeah, they could be a. And here's the other thing about the White Sox. They're kind of blowing things up right now. Like they're already trading away players. And that we have not seen in Major League Baseball. And we're seeing it from the Marlins too. Another team that looks like it could be historically bad. They just traded away Luis Arraez last weekend to the San Diego Padres and ate all of the money that they're going to be paying Luis Arraez for some prospects. The collective
I didn't even realize they're a 10-win team too. The Marlins are absolutely hideous.
Both teams are, and they're both selling in May. Like every year, as we get close, every year for the we answer questions from Twins fans on Gleaming of the Geek, where people are like, why do they wait until July to make these trades? Like, why wait until July to fix the bullpen? Why wait until July to get that starting pitcher they need? And the answer always is, who makes a trade before July? Like nobody. Like you've got to have another team trade you somebody, right? And historically, we have not seen teams dump players like that this early. We've seen it now twice in the last week from two of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. So maybe that's changing. We'll see.
Is there worry? I mean, is that worrisome at all when you think about I mean, last year there were significant conversations about the Athletics. I mean, whatever baseball's version of, high-end tanking is, that Vegas is on the horizon. They don't care about their fans. You basically have 3,500 fans at every game that are also like protesting at the same time how much they hate things.
Right.
Now, that's a unique situation in some respects to Oakland, but the Marlins, save for the World Series runs, have always, save for a few stars here and there, they've kind of been middling to bad,
right?
Really for the most part. Yeah. But to have multiple franchises potentially that are all in the constant, we're going to rebuild, we're going to scrape nickels and dimes wherever we can get them. I mean, that can't be healthy. That's got to be a little worrisome.
I mean, especially like a team like the White Sox, where they were in a rebuild for years. Finally, it looked like they were about there, like 2020, 2021. Is this going to be the new heavyweights of the division?
They had Lance Lynn, a couple of big hitters, Abreu, of course, and
couple things go wrong, and suddenly that cycle is already over. They've already gone. Their window never really opened. Period. And now they've got to start it all over again. I mean, it's a result of the collective bargaining agreement, and really it's a result of there is no salary cap in baseball. Right, the salary cap in baseball has been opposed mercilessly by the Major League Baseball Players Association. They don't want to have any kind of salary cap. It's a line in the sand that they will not cross. And as a result of that, you also don't have any sort of minimum amount that you have to spend.
Right.
And then on top of that, Major League Baseball ownership has things like revenue sharing, such that if you don't make a lot of revenue, you end up getting money from some of the bigger teams which sounds like a good idea, but what it really means is those teams that go ahead and tank are sure to be profitable.
Yeah.
Like, despite the fact that they're not drawing any fans or they don't have any, corporate sponsors or whatever else, they're getting so much money from TV revenue
and not even actively trying to win.
Right. Yes. And getting money from all the other teams that are trying to win and have to pay luxury taxes. That luxury tax money goes to those teams that aren't trying. So oddly enough, the most surefire way to make money in Major League Baseball is to suck. Right. And so you're providing this built-in incentive to have some really bad Major League Baseball teams. And I mean, they just got through a collective bargaining agreement before the 2022 season. I think it's 5 or 6 years long. So that's not going to change. It's not going to change anywhere in the near future. And you can't build in the sort of things like that you can maybe build in with like the NFL or the NBA, where the draft is so important that, you can mix up people don't pay much attention to the Major League Baseball draft because none of those guys are going to be here for 4 or 5 years. So, it's hard to find those incentive structures to keep people from tanking when it's a guaranteed profit.
That's John Bonus, Twins Daily, at Twins Geek via the Twitter and X Machine, and of course, Zone Coverage. I mean, he's got his fingers and toes dipped into every aspect of Minnesota sports. One more segment with John. Jump back into the positive side of baseball, that the Twins are actually trying to win, and they're doing it at a pretty damn high clip right now. So loving that. Another segment with Bonus. It's Nordo in for PA. Max Fuller's here as well, and he's got a cash opportunity for you.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword FUN at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword FUN. Enter it now at KFAN.com. Between your Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets tonight when it tips off at 8:30 p.m. with the pregame show starting at 8 and the pregame party with me 7 to 8. Catch it all right here on FM 100.3 KFAN and anywhere on the free iHeartRadio app.
How are you going to pick all these places to go tonight, Wolves fans? It feels good. It feels good.
Freehouse is where you're going to be, Mr.
Freehouse is where I'll be. Target Center is where Max will be.
I'll definitely be stopping by here.
I don't know.
Please do, Bonus.
To wave at you in the cage.
I'm trying to. It's not a Where's Waldo. It's a something bonus. Because you're going to be bouncing around downtown tonight too.
Yeah,
absolutely. Part of the party, part of the hysteria. Just talking off air, I mean, just the craving this atmosphere is, I mean, hashtag Wolves back. It's going to be unbelievable.
I am really excited about the vibe in downtown this weekend. It's going to be fantastic.
The vibe with the Minnesota Twins is pretty good. They're at Toronto to take on the Blue Jays this weekend, and then they bounce back. And I think it's the Yankees at Target Field starting Tuesday.
Correct. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yankees coming to town.
And if we're following the schedule, Chris Paddock should be on the mound against Rodon on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And Chris Paddock's interesting. Good times, bad times. Good times, bad times. Good times, good times.
Right.
Paddock, of course, in relief in the postseason series, coming back. I think it was his second Tommy John's.
Yeah,
finally gets healthy. He's back in the postseason last year, and I thought he looked pretty damn good in those short little stints. Right.
Yeah, right. That's one of the reasons we were kind of excited about seeing how he could be as a starter. In part, you just see a guy come back as a reliever and he's throwing 98 miles per hour. It's easy to kind of get excited about. You at least know that the Tommy John surgery wasn't messed up at that point.
Now, other than I think, Baltimore just put it on him,
yes,
9 earned,
right. Yep.
and then again, it's good times, bad times with him. It was the Angels, albeit as part of a victory, but he gave up 4 in that one.
Yep.
What do you make it as kind of the up and down aspects of how he's performed? He's got games. He bounced back from the 9 runs to go 7 scoreless with 10 Ks. He's got 10 Ks last night. Like, what is it about Paddock's game? Maybe if this becomes more of the average, what do we love about Chris Paddock being in this rotation?
I mean, he's working through a lot of stuff, right? Like, he's bouncing back from Tommy John surgery. Like, as a result of that, a lot of guys, their first year back, sort of struggle with their control. The elbow is where the control is. That's when you have Tommy John surgery. That's the last thing to come back is the control. On top of that, he's always been a fastball changeup pitcher, and he was trying to add a pitch this time. He was trying to add this sweeper or slider, whatever it is, that he can throw on a regular basis to supplement the two really good pitches he's had, the changeup and the fastball. Well, as a result of that, what we've seen is his changeup has been a little less consistent than we've seen in the past, and I think that's been part of what has been going on. I mean, I think in general, like, yes, he gave up 4 runs that time. He also had a couple short outings early on. Overall, he's been a really good. You throw out the one enormously bad start, which frankly he was also kind of left in beyond the point most starting pitchers would have been left in to kind of eat that. They had a beat up bullpen, and so you're just going to
let him fall on the sword.
You're going to add 3 or 4 runs to your ERA that would not normally be, part of your ERA. But his strikeout rate has been really strong. He's had really good control. I think he's got 8 walks all year. And when you can strike people out and you don't put them on base, you're usually, and he hasn't seemed to really have a home run issue or anything like that, other than like that one real bad outing. So. I'm optimistic about Pat. I mean, the question really is going to be how they're going to be careful about how much they use him.
Yeah.
Coming off of Tommy John surgery, you don't want to lean into a guy too much. And I think what they're going to try and do is try to be conservative about how much they use him. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up having a couple of stays on the IL, just to sort of give him a little break. Or skips a rotation spot or 2 sometime mid-season just to try and keep him fresh. Because, I mean, he's got the upside of a, number 2 starter.
Yep.
And when you get to the playoffs, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody who could be a playoff caliber starter. He can be that, but yeah, he can also have some rough outings.
How tough is it sticking with the pitching staff? And I was joking, should I get my Simeon Woods Richardson jersey?
Yeah.
Just because, and it hasn't been beautiful at times. He's conceding a bunch of hits. Things are getting a little hairy once in a while with him, but he's getting out alive.
Right.
And how difficult is it when you mention, guys get out of bed like Paddock and they just toss it 98, and it's becoming a speed game, right? And just flamethrowers left and right. Then you got a guy that throws it, and maybe it's a similar conversation to Kenta Maeda. He's getting it was wow. He's consistently hitting 92 or 93, right?
Right.
And Simeon Woods Richardson, I think, is kind of in a similar spot where he adds a mile to it. Well, now it's 92. Learning how to pitch and win with those types of pitches, placement game, all of that. Is it just naturally a tougher road for the Woods Richardsons of the world?
Yeah, I mean, with Woods Richardson, he was a top prospect that was traded to the Twins from the Blue Jays for Jose Barrios. So he'll be going back to his old organization. He and Austin Martin.
Do we get Jose this weekend? Let me look at that.
We do not get Jose Barrios this weekend. He pitched 2 days ago and got roughed up by the Phils.
He didn't fare well against the Twins last year either, did he?
Well, no, he did pretty well, though, in the playoffs.
Oh,
and they ended up pulling him early or after, one time through the lineup or something, and they caught hell for that. Yeah. Simeon Woods Richardson was a top prospect whose velocity was gradually kind of decreasing in his time with the Twins organization, which is unusual. Like they've got success story after success story after success story of guys whose velocity have climbed. That's why Louis Varland is a prospect. That's why Bailey Ober is a prospect, right? Or a successful pitcher. Richardson's had been going down and down and down to the point where last year he got knocked around in AAA pretty much, and he was only averaging 90 miles an hour with his fastball. And this offseason, he and the Twins basically took a look at it and said, we got to go back to pitching, sort of use your athleticism and you quit trying to. Part of the reason his fastball wasn't going very fast is he was trying to sort of deceive people as to when the fastball was coming. He was changing his arm slot to match the arm slot that he had with the various breaking pitches that he does or the various slower pitches that he does. And as a result of that, he was losing a couple miles per hour on the fastball. Well, they just amped that, but let's go back to the old way, make it a little more rotational. And as a result of that, we saw in spring training day 1, he was throwing 94 miles per hour. Now, that doesn't sound that fast, right? But when you've been pitching and surviving at 89 miles per hour,
that's
to be
fast.
able to throw at 94 miles per hour is a game changer, right? Absolute game changer. As to how excited you can get about him, I mean, I think you can get pretty excited about him. He was a top prospect, and the fact that he had tumbled down the prospect list after a few years, we're kind of seeing what we expected from him 3 or 4 years ago. He's always been young for whatever minor league level he's been in. He's also, he's never had problems with the secondary pitches, which other pitchers generally, usually it's like, oh, yeah, he's got a good fastball, he's got a good slider, but he needs to work on his changeup or something. No, all those other pitches have been fine. The fastball was the problem, and now the fastball is fixed. As a result of that, I think that the expectation is maybe he'll be sort of a mid-rotation guy. I actually would go higher than that. I feel like he has a ceiling of a playoff caliber starter. Now that we'll have to see him continue this kind of success, but the dude's got a 1.74 ERA right now.
Not bad.
So I mean, it's 4 or 5 starts, but that's worth sticking around and finding out more.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The only question I have left for you: do you need 4 fingers or 5 fingers to hold up when it's Wolves in 4 or 5? How do we feel?
I went into game 2 thinking we were going to see the best of the Nuggets, right? That
Me too.
They'd kind of futzed around through the Lakers series, and we'd show that game 1 they didn't start out very well, and they were going to come out game 2 and really try and show that they were the champs. And then it went exactly the opposite of that way. They got thrown out of their game early, and if that was their best, well, then it's going to be 4.
Yeah,
I mean. Yeah, it's just a matter of how much the Wolves want to play with their prey at that point. How much do they want to play with their food? I would also say Denver has had 3 days to hear not just like their own fans and not just Wolves fans, but the entire national media write them off.
Yep.
Right? And for 3 days they've been thinking about that. So I think we're going to see them come out on fire. This game. Now, unfortunately, they got to do it on the road.
Yep.
Not that that can still happen, but I'm hesitant that they can show a lot more than they were able to show on game 2. So I'm going to say in 4. I'm going to say Monday morning when we are doing the Gleeman and the Geek Patreon podcast, which is going to be an hour and a half talk about Twins. It's going to end with a half hour of Wolves talk, as it did last week, where we are just going to be talking about the sweep and now whether we'd rather face Oklahoma City or Dallas.
No, I love it. I love it. Thank you, Johnny. Thanks for hanging out in studio, man.
Thanks for the invitation.
The birthday boy doesn't look a day over 56. John Bonus at Twins Geek via Twitter, and then, of course, twinsdaily.com, zone coverage. All things Minnesota sports, John is intimately acquainted with and covers it nicely. So thank you to John. Final segment, we'll kind of just unload the notebook on Wolves and Nuggets game 3 and send you on to the program. Final segment, 9 to noon is next.
Fan.
Final segment, 9 to noon. Wolves heavy vibe from Chad Greenway opening the show. Denver perspective with Scott Hastings and Troy Rank from Altitude Sports and the Denver Post, respectively. You just heard John Bonus in studio, the Twins Geek. He's going to be dawdling his way to Target Center tonight as well. We're all over the place. Max, you're at the Target Center. I'll be at Free House for a watch party for the entirety of the game. I'll get there around 8 p.m. Ton of $50 Free House gift cards to give away and just post up, have a couple of beers, and hopefully watch a Game 3 victory for the home squad. Wolves and Nuggets at Target Center tonight. Tip-off shortly after, more like maybe closer to 9. Who knows? Between 8:30 and 9, eventually we're going to get to watch some basketball. Pre-game, 8 o'clock, the pre to the pre. The party in the cage starts at 7 with you, Max.
Yes, sir.
Final thoughts on hopefully ringing up another W tonight.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets are either going to come out 2 ways here. They're going to look more of what we saw in Game 2, just defeated, hearts ripped out of their chest. I don't know if you ever played Mortal Kombat as a kid.
Oh yeah.
But when they're about to do the fatality and they're just kind of wobbling.
I used to know the blood code by heart,
right?
But I've forgotten it in recent years.
Right before the voice says, finish him. Like, that's kind of the Nuggets are the wobbly guy right now, and the Wolves can rip their heart out tonight with a 3-0 victory. But they're the champs, and I expect them to come out with some fight. Let's not forget that this team that made not one, but 2 3-1 comebacks in previous playoffs before with Nikola Jokic. But I think it kind of all depends on how Jamal Murray is going to show up tonight. When Jokic is going to get his, he's going to be the passer and scorer that we know him to be, perhaps maybe even more aggressive than we've seen him in the first two games, as Troy was talking about earlier. But I think it all kind of rides on how good Jamal Murray can be, and I just don't see him having a breakout game when you got guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels, who the Wolves fans have dubbed Law and Order earlier this week because they got Jamal Murray locked up. So I expect another Wolves win, and we're going to be howling and partying on into the weekend.
So whether you're hanging out with Max, you're finding me at Free House having a couple of beers, you're following the bouncing bonus around Minneapolis, it's going to be fun, and I'm with you. As we put a wrap on 9 to noon, it's got to be the punch. Who survives it? And I do think that Denver comes out hair on fire tonight. But what does that look like? We also have the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year back in the mix.
Right.
New dad, new reason to fight, and he's going to be on the court. I just can't wait for this thing. Thank you so much to everybody, not only for joining 9 to noon, but those for listening to 9 to noon, and Max sitting in my chair today, me in PA's chair, you being a Wolves-loving Rube and listening. The program is next. Everybody have an awesome afternoon.
Going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.